What it do, guys? It's D'Anthony here, man, aka Hood Scout, back again for another edition of the Hood Scout podcast. And this is really a unique podcast, a podcast like no other. We're going to have athletes, we're going to have coaches, we're going to have intellectuals, we're going to have media members of all sorts. And don't forget, guys, to like this podcast, share this podcast, and help grow this podcast. This is not just my podcast. This is also your podcast. And the only reason it's going to grow is because you guys are going to be invested in it, guys. Sit back, get your beverage of choice ready, get your popcorn ready, get your dinner ready, get your steak ready, get your vegan meal ready. Tune in, guys. Hood Scout. Peace. Hey, what it do, world? Welcome back to another edition of the Hood Scout podcast. Consider to like, share, and keep this thing going, man. Today I got a great guest, homegrown down here in D-Town. Without further ado, Coach, tell the people who you are and where you're from.
How y'all doing? This is KHENON Hall, born and raised Dallas, Texas, mostly in the Oak Cliff area. So I'm glad to be home. Thanks for having me.
So, Coach, man, I know you got the SMU not long ago, and we'll lead up to that. I always like to chop it up. Walk me back to how was it growing up, and what was that kind of introduction in the ball for you?
Growing up, man, it was a. I tell people all the time, it's just very humble. Humble beginnings. Growing up in Oak Cliff, where we come from is not always easy. You always have a lot of things you have to overcome, a lot of poverty, a lot of just all the things that a young African American from the inner city especially like Dallas, you have to overcome. So. Growing up, it was cool. I had great loved ones taking care of me. My grandmother, my aunts, and my cousins. I was raised by women, so I make sure I'm well. They did great job. So getting into ball, man, it was. I think it was around 4 or 5 years old, watching Emmitt Smith, watching guys like that, that's kind of how I started getting into the game, just the love for the game, watching guys of that nature. And then, when Deion Sanders came over to the Cowboy, that kind of took it to another level. So those were my two biggest inspirations growing up, getting into the ball. But getting into ball, probably 4 or 5 years old, but my first love was baseball because that's what my dad did. So I started off with baseball and kind of, out the baseball, got into football, and football, the rest is history.
Now, Coach, you dropped, and see, that's why I love this podcast and talking, because there's so much stuff that I didn't know. I ain't gonna say others didn't know. I didn't know. Now, now, let's pick at that baseball thing a little bit, because lately it's been a lot of hoopla around the lack of African Americans in baseball. Even though I think it's kind of changing a little bit. Why baseball for you? And then also, why do you think the game has dwindled? I would say probably in the past 25 years.
I want to say baseball for me because that was my dad and my brother did. My older brother was a very special player when he was at Lincoln High School, and my dad, that's what he did. Baseball, softball. So that's what we was around early growing up. So. That's what I took to, the interest in that, watching, the guys Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr., guys like that growing up. Those guys were big time ball players, and that was elite, and then obviously the history of the game, Hank Aaron and guys like that. And so you going back to the history, I don't know why. I think the game is an expensive game. I think, to do it year round, do the travel baseball. I know, when you're coming from an African American or the poverty or the culture we come from, majority of the kids, they don't have the means and the wealth to be able to keep up with the sport, throughout their childhood. So I think it's more so just that they're having the means to be able to do it. Like I said, it's a very expensive sport, very time consuming. There's a lot of, like you said, single mother parents that they got to work, they got to do this, and how they can't, really get you to practice all the time or get you to those events. So I think it's just the access and having the means to be able to do it. I don't know, man, why it's dwelling like that, but it should be able to pick up. I mean, there's so many talented kids that can play this sport. I know both of my boys are playing the sport. They're both really good at it, and they take on to it and continue to push forward.
Coach, now was it and we're gonna be all over the place, but was it deemed as cool back then? And what year are we talking? What year range are we talking?
To my baseball.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, I mean, I want to say 93,
Oh
94
yeah. So it was a little bit more cooler back then.
was cool. It's cool to, baseball always been cool to me. Those guys
Yeah.
to this day, they cool cats. They different dudes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They got their own little swag. They got their own mindset. So for me, it's always been cool. Like I tell my kids all the time, if I can go back and do it, I'll stick with baseball a little longer. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, I think the early '90s for sure. It was jumping.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. 5 minutes into the Hood Scout podcast, Coach Hall. So walk me through that high school journey, and then we'll lead up past that.
Man, high school was different for me, man. When I came to high school, I was about 5'2", 125 pounds. So it wasn't like I was this athlete, but I came out of middle school as a highly, a really good player, and playing defense and playing DB and running back. I got a lot of respect because I had that hard hitting mindset. I've always been like a hard hitter. You know what I mean? The Ronnie Lotts of the world. Roy Williams. Guys like that. So that's kind of how I made my name in football. So getting in high school, like I said, I wasn't the biggest guy, but
Hmm.
heart I had and the way I prepared and the way I worked hard and the love I had for the game. So freshman year in high school, our freshman team was pretty loaded, and like I said, I was starting DB, play some offense, play some running back. I felt as though I was better at running back than DB, but at some point I got to, in my head, I got tired of getting hit. So I wanted to do the hitting. So freshman year, had a good season, played really well. Sophomore year, you're a freshman. The summer you don't really understand. So the summer, not going back to those means, not really having a ride to get to workouts, some workouts, not really having access to do that, and so we missed a lot of. I missed a lot of time summer, my sophomore summer. So sophomore summer, coming back into my sophomore year, I was put back on JV when I knew I was supposed to be on varsity. You know what I mean? So I had to re-earn everything and rework, and it didn't take long. I think it was a few games and I was back on varsity, but I think it was like 2 or 3 games, but I was back on varsity. So sophomore year, had a good career, and I'm gonna go back to the beginning of sophomore year. I had a tragedy what kind of affected me as well. One of my cousins passed away, and it left me at a bad state where school to me wasn't important. You know what I mean? So I missed a lot of days my sophomore year while I'm trying to play football, but that
Hmm.
kind of set me back mentally and academically, where I had a lot of ground to cover going into my junior year. So have a great I think sophomore year, going into this junior year, having a really good campaign in camp, end up being a starter at South Oak Cliff High School, balling out. I mean, really having a really good year. And get into like the 6, 7 games of the season, I have a fracture in my neck. So
Mm.
me going from, not playing as a sophomore as much and getting on varsity being the starter, it was kind of a heartbreaking situation. But, I had great coaches like, um, you know, um, JB Wallace and all my coaches that at South Oak Cliff had my back and looked after me, and took care of me. And you know, one thing about that, Harold Jones, who was my DB coach, and guys like that looked after me. So going to the doctors and then telling me, oh, you're not gonna be able to play the rest of the year. So had to do the whole neck brace, and they said it didn't need surgery, just need to heal on its own and all that. So did that for the rest of the year, set it out, and waited till my senior year, and I was the starter. And then that year, that was a year that Sock and Hutch merged. Hutch shut down, and we was already one of the top ranked teams in our district, and they were one of the top ranked teams in their district. So when we came together, everyone, well, this is a powerful team, and you had to go out there and compete every day. They had a lot of talented kids come over from Hutch, and had a very deep back end. So being able to be a starter on that team meant that you was a really good player. So going into my senior year, you don't the aspirations of thinking college or thinking this was really a deal for me. I just love playing football.
Mm-hmm.
I had a counselor of mine, and they kind of put that dream of college in my head. And when I thought it was attainable, I got to start taking care of my business academically, and it still wasn't. I still didn't think it was obtainable because just where we from. I was just planning to be playing. So when I played my senior year and I was doing a pretty good job, I ended up getting a couple offers, and Baylor was one of them, and a couple other schools. But then they found out about my neck injury, and those offers kind of went away, and I ended up having a really good senior year. I thought I led the team in tackles, did a really good job. We won a lot of ball games. We went to the third round, and we should have won state. Then we lost to Lancaster in the third round, but end up finishing strong at South Oak Cliff High School, man.
So, coach, I must have thought you were older than you are, coach. What, you in your 30s, coach?
Yeah, I'm 34, man.
Dang, coach, I thought you was OG. You're 4 years older than me. I thought you was an OG, coach. That's crazy. But
Look,
when you said merger, see, I grew up in Highland Hills, so
that's
Highland Hills, you either went to Hutch or you went to Roosevelt or Sock. So when you
hmm
said merge, I'm like, I remember that like it was yesterday. So that's
yeah.
crazy.
See,
All right, cool, cool, cool. Let me ask you this, coach, and we're gonna get to the post high school career, but I want to ask you something when you was talking about school. Why do you think, like I said, I'm from the inner city, so I went to Skyline and Ville, but why do you think that's kind of a disconnect sometimes when it comes to some of our kids and then some of the academic side of things?
I think it's more so just the importance is stressed, not only at home but at the school. Sometimes in some of these inner city schools, academics is not as important as stress. They're just trying to pass you through. They're just collecting the
Mhm.
check. They don't really buy in. And I know the things that I know it's changed from when I was in school, because I've been up to South Oak Cliff High School, and I just see how, it starts from the top down. Just how he holds everything accountable and the discipline and that he's instilled into the South Oak Cliff program. Um, but it just started with that, man. I mean, of course, there was great teachers there that cared, that put the effort in, but also there's ones that didn't. You can tell they didn't care. So how did you expect us to care if you didn't care? So it's just more so, and then you go down to resources. You know, um, you know, we go to certain places and you just see the difference in the schools and what they have and how their classrooms were structured and all that stuff. So you just as a kid, you don't know, you're just confused, you're just trying to wonder why we're getting treated differently and why don't we have this. And and like I said, it just goes back to people investing. People investing, and that's why I'm here, because certain
Yeah,
people invest in me. Certain people didn't quit on me, and without those people, I wouldn't be here today.
already. 12 minutes into this Scout podcast, coach, what was that post high school career? Did you have ideas of what you want to do, and let's walk through that a little bit.
Um, After the Baylor scholarship was taken, I was kind of distraught. I didn't know what to do. One of my one of my coaches, and I'm over here. I'm over here drawing blanks, but one of my coaches, my linebacker coach at South Oak Cliff High School, he went out there and got me a scholarship. He went and did his part and took care of me. I can't believe see this how I'm getting old. I'm over here.
Yeah. Hey, it's good, coach. And what's so crazy, right? Either later in this episode or right when we get off, you gonna remember the name.
Yeah, I'm remember that name, but no, he took good care of me. He was the only one of the few coaches that didn't quit. I know for me, um, that without him, I wouldn't have got the offer I had, which was to a junior college. Which, like I said, for us, we I didn't know a difference. I just wanted to go play football. You know what I mean? I didn't know the difference between. I mean, you kind of know there's a difference between Baylor and Trinity Valley Community College, but it's still an opportunity. it was my way to get out. And yeah, big shout out to Jamal Adams. I was gonna get it, but no, without him, man, and I tell him to this day, man, thank you. Him and Harold Jones, they just kept on. They took me under their wing, and took care of me. And then, I don't know if you remember Derek Williams, who played at South Oak Cliff High School before me, came out in '05, but
What position?
he played receiver.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah. So his uncle, Coach J, God rest his soul. He took great care of me, man. Like I was his. When I talk about those resources, I'm talking about not having rides and stuff. So he came pick me up. He'd take me home from school. He did all that stuff for me. Him and Coach Jones. So I owe a bunch to those guys who, they weren't my father. They didn't have to, but they did. And I owe them a lot. So big shout outs to Coach Jones and obviously Coach J, for
Hmm.
but going, I went to Trinity Valley, man. I went to
Yep.
Trinity Valley on full ride. At the time, they were the number 2 team in the nation. And it was an hour and 15 minutes from the house, so it was good for me to get away a little bit. I've never really been out of Highland Hills, singing hills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I knew. So getting
Yeah.
out, going down to Athens, Texas, it was different. It was a culture shock for me. As
Yeah.
you know, Cliff is probably 90+%, or I'm not gonna say 90. It's dominant African American and Hispanic population. So it was a culture shock for me, but I didn't allow that to do anything for me. So I went down there, was able to play as a true freshman, play a lot of snaps, made a lot of plays. It was a great experience down there. Ended up getting a new coach my sophomore year. And Coach Smiley and Coach William Reed, another two more guys that I owe the deal a lot for. Just like I said, they took care of me.
Hmm.
Uh, and when you know my story and you know how I come up, you'll know how football just really it took care of me. And it helped me get to this point. And with those male influences, those male mentors that I end up having growing up, it was coaches. It was coaches. Those are the father figures in my life. At that time. So those guys, you know, allowed me to be me. My sophomore year at Trinity Valley, and I played well. We did really well. I had multiple offers coming out of Trinity Valley Community College. I'm North Texas, SMU, Ark State. Was waiting. Thought I was gonna get a couple from Okie State and Kansas State. Just the waiting game. You know how that go.
Yeah.
Uh, the waiting game, but I didn't want to wait. I was a mid-year guy. I was a qualifier out of high school. Only reason I didn't go Division 1 out of high school was because of my neck, so I had to go reprove myself. And then I got a scholarship from Illinois State University, and it was it wasn't where it was at; it was who was recruiting me. You know, uh, you know that guy, man. He came in and did his thing. He came in and um, he took, like I said, coaches took care of me. Coach Michael Menifee, he's a Texas guy. He had a neck injury in college, so he kind of understood what I was going through.
Hmm.
Here's this, Caucasian man. I remember like yesterday, he gives me a call. He said, "Hey, Keenan, I'm at your house," and I lived in the townhomes right there in Highland Hills.
Okay.
And he hits me, he says, "Is it safe for me to get out?" I said, "Let me call my daddy, and he gonna come get you." So, I wasn't even at home when he was coming. I didn't know he's popping up. He pop up at the house, and I pull up at the house, and he presents this opportunity with me to come on a visit to Illinois State, and all that. And I'm like, man, I've never been on a plane before. I've never flown before. None of that. So that was new, new things. I had to
Hmm.
experience. So I flew on a plane, came and visited Illinois State. Man, it was a blizzard. It was snowing like crazy, something I never really seen before. We get ice in Dallas, but to see just all full snow, you know,
Yeah.
But I didn't allow that to deter me from going there. They had a great academic institution, big enough university. I think it was 20 some thousand plus. They had my major that I wanted to do was physical ed and kinesiology. So they had everything I wanted. And then they had a solid football team, and they had a plan for me. I was, playing corner, playing safety. And the chance for me, I've kind of very mature at that time, being, how we are in inner city. You got to grow up fast,
Yeah.
so all these decisions I'm making on my own. I told my best friend, Marquis Smith, I was like, hey man, I ain't going up there.
Mm.
And I was gonna commit to either UNT or SMU, and he was like, what did it hurt to go? What would it hurt to go? And I went up there and fell in love with the place. It was just, it was a beautiful place. And like I said, the people was great. And the coach, at the end of the day, that's what it came down to, because that's who I've always looked up to growing up was coaches. And he he invested into me. At the end of
Mm-hmm.
it, he invested into me, and that's what I needed, continuing to grow. So I went to Illinois State, man, and as a junior, uh, started as a junior, balled out, and broke my neck.
Mm.
The 10th game of the season with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, playing Western Illinois, and that's kind of where my career ended at Illinois State, and it was like one of those why me type of situation because I was balling at the time.
Yeah.
I think coming into that game, I was averaging like 8 to 10 tackles a game. I was, getting my footing. You
Mm.
been transferred to a new program. You got a growing pain and you got to learn and develop and grow. So went there. That happened, and it changed my life. For the better. Actually,
Yeah.
you know, at the time I was like, well, I'm definitely not going back to Dallas.
Why is that, Coach? You just
You
didn't want to.
it wasn't anything here for me. I didn't have
Yeah.
nowhere. I didn't have a home. Coming back here, the options are very limited.
Yeah.
Especially with degree or having anything, finalized. So, I met with it was a new head coach taking over, which would have been going into my senior year, and the running back at the time, his defensive backs coach Lamar Connor. He said he heard, that I wanted to coach, and he didn't know me, I didn't know him, but he said, just trust me. I'm gonna look out for you. I've heard a number of great things about you, and your teammates speak very highly of you. And I said, all right, and I put my trust in him, and how that is with us coming from where we from. It's hard to trust. We slow to trust.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Doing that, he took me under his wing, taught me I've always been a student of the game. I knew football, but just the intricacies from a coaching standpoint, he
Mm-hmm.
taught me. He didn't never stop. To this day, that's who I call when I need to talk, when I need any kind of advice about anything. That's who I call, and that's who I talk to about everything that's going on with me. It's Lamar Connor, who is the running backs coach at Miami, Ohio, up there in the MAC. So, and it's crazy. Our path kind of, it's kind of similar when it comes to the coaching because I came in, defensive GA on defense, coached on defense, uh, but like I went past JUCO playing. But go ahead.
No, no, that's good. That's good, man. You can carry this thing. I was just gonna say, how was your mindset when you were playing JUCO ball? Like, was you encouraged? Did you ever get down? And then we said the coach said you carried yourself a certain way. How did you carry yourself?
Business like, obviously I was still a kid, but also when it came to football, I was very business like, hard worker. I wouldn't let nobody outwork me. I took the game very serious,
Mm-hmm.
when practicing and effort and all that. You knew one thing about me that when it came to football, I was very serious about it and I wasn't going to take it for granted. So the mindset in JUCO, you got to have a really, really, you got to be locked in. you can get trapped in JC. It's not many resources at all. You kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and in Athens, and you already the minority there. You go from being the majority to the minority. And it was a little different. You walk in the store, people look at you weird. Think
Real talk.
the
Yeah.
whole. So, but the mindset for me is, when I get deep into my life, um, you know, my mom being an addict and my dad not being there, I want to be different. I didn't want to be like them. I didn't want to, settle for that. So for me, I always that was my mindset. That's what drove me. That what continues to drive me to this day. That what motivates me is, you know, where we come from. They tell you ain't
Yeah.
gonna be. They tell you gonna be like that or this, and I just didn't want to be that statistic. I wanted to be different. So I kept pushing myself. I had my downs. I had my downs where I do crazy stuff and stupid stuff, but with God, I think that's with God being ahead of my life is what helped me prosper and continue to go. So
I
yeah,
have. I'm my bad. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
you just have to have a very because we built the last from our upbringing. I think you have to be a very strong individual to get through junior college mentally.
Mm. I think that's so powerful, man, because that's what I love about this talking to different coaches and just you now is everybody specific now obviously you're at a school where I would consider a big school as far as the athletic football, but people don't really know the stories,
Hmm.
and the stories are really like miracles in some cases. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? And it's that's the fascinating part because nobody know your story. Like, I ain't trying to be fun, but your mama addict. Like that's a lot of coaches ain't going through that. And that's not a woe is me thing, but it's just like nobody know the story behind it. And that's to me that make the accomplishment that much crazier.
Yeah, and we don't really talk about it much because you don't want you don't want that sympathy. I'm gonna earn this on my own type deal. So yeah, man, it's things we deal with to this day. People will never understand what certain people deal with on a day-to-day basis. That's why you gotta treat people a certain way. Like you always gotta like that's just me. I try to treat each individual with some form of respect. You know, and because you never know where they've been, where they come from, what they're going through. So uh it's just how you treat people to be at the end of the day.
All right, so Lee, let's get back to this coaching journey. You were GA, you climbing through the ranks. I'm sure you went to many different places, so we don't necessarily gotta take a long time, but I want to lead up into this job. So how was that coaching rank? What was your mindset at? Let's talk a little bit about trying to rise through these ranks.
Man, work, man. At the end of the day, it was about work. I wanted to work. I wanted to be the best. I was hungry. I was eager. I had babies. I needed to provide. I didn't, like I said, I didn't want to be like my mom and dad. So I had to provide. So I started off at Illinois State after I broke my neck, my junior year and started that first year as a student coach. So after my year as a student coach, I had the opportunity, I was already a household name kind of. So people in the administration wanted to help me. At that time, Illinois State didn't have GA jobs. So my goal was I'm making, create a GA job.
Yeah.
So and I go to, one of our athletic directors who loved me, Leanna Bordner, there at Illinois State. And she was like, Ken, I'm going to help you any way I can. We couldn't get a GA job at football. So I was like, where can our GA at? So we got a GA job for him in the academic department. So I was an academic advisor and basically GA for football. So as you know, I had to put a minimum 30 hours in a week being an academic advisor. Also, I was the lead defensive GA for football. As you know, that's breaking down the film. That's everything under the moon. So you talking about getting in early 5:36 a.m. before I gotta go to work to academic advisement. Do that Then go to first football, then go to the academics. Then after academics, then end at 3. I gotta get ready, rush over, get ready for practice, do all that, break down film, all the whole 9. And people think this thing is easy, and this is not getting, the first year not really getting paid. You're at a GA, you're probably getting $800 maybe a month, and that's before taxes. So you doing that, busting your butt for $700 a month. So doing that, and then having to go to class. You have to, at Illinois State, most places you take 6 hours and it's full time. You have to take, I think, 9 plus, so that's 3 plus classes you have to take at a graduate level at a very high educational school. Illinois State has great academics there, and their grad program is one of the best in the country. So you're talking about going there and trying to manage. All right, I got a daughter. Okay, I got football, that's the numero uno, but I can't make that look like to the academic people because they don't want to give me an opportunity to be the GA. So I got to still put in my time there, and then my obligation. And then along with class, it wasn't enough hours in the day. Sometimes I wasn't getting home till 2 in the morning. You know what I mean? Sometimes 2 in the morning, had to be right back up at the school at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So 5 o'clock more times than not. And so that I mean, that was the journey. It's hard work. It's dedication. Wasn't no complaining. Because I had a goal. I want to be where I'm at. So go through that. Obviously with having the little one and the money situation, it started to take a toll. So I had to walk away. I shut it down. Shut that thing down. Went to the car dealership. I went to a Cadillac dealership. Was there because after the end of the season, so I was there from January to probably March or April. It was like, but I led in sales every month, by the way. But I just knew that wasn't for me. So I went back, had a conversation with the head coach at Illinois State, and I just had to make a sacrifice. I had to make that sacrifice. So it was like more of an intern basis. So I was interning for that next year, and then I got a shot after the 2011 season, going into the 2012 spring. I got a shot to go to New Mexico University. Went there with Bob Davie in his first season, and it helped me out a lot. I went there with Archie McDaniels and Taylor Stubblefield. Taylor Stubblefield was at Illinois State with me at a brief time, but Archie McDaniel, who is at University of Houston right now, is one of my close mentors as well. He was at Trinity Valley with me as well when he was a young coach. So going there with him, just learning. Was a lead GA, defensive GA. I think that year won more games than the Lobos have won in the last few years. And under Bob Davie, did a good job. And then, Kevin Cosgrove was linebacker coach there, and he had got me opportunity to be my full-time coach back closer to my kids in Iowa. So I went to Iowa Central Community College full-time.
Let me stop you, Coach. I want to ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What was your mind? And I always ask guys this, but what was your mindset on moving? Is it just strictly I'm chasing a dream, or was moving a kind of an issue? I know you're a coach, so coaches kind of move like military people, but what was that? How was it moving? That's what I want to ask.
It was hard for me. It was hard. Leaving 2 kids behind at that time. My 2 kids was hard. Because all I can think about is how I was raised at that time. So going through that, leaving them behind. But I always told myself, I'm sacrificing a little now for a lot later. You know what I mean? So make this small sacrifice because I'll always be coming back to them. You know what I mean? So went out there for 9 months and grinded my butt off. So ended up going to Iowa Central. Was there for a short time. The weather was crazy, but I enjoyed my time there. I went up there. I went to recruiting first day. My first time being able to be out, visually as a recruiter. I went to Dallas, and I think that year I signed 8 to 10 people to come to our Central Community College out of Dallas, out of the Dallas Metroplex. So
Crazy.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Dallas kids to come to Iowa, and that's where I always knew I had a niche as far as the recruiting part of it, because even when I was an intern at Illinois State, I was getting big time recruits on campus, from our area, So, what up, Coach? So, in doing that, going to Iowa Central, it was different. I was there from January to basically March, and I remember it was like yesterday. I had to resign because my son, my oldest son, he was having bad seizures, and he ended up being hospitalized for like 3 weeks, and they kept going on, but he kept having these seizures, kept having these seizures, kept having these seizures. So as a father, as you know, I was scared. Crazy, like I'm not there. I'm scared. So I decided to, resign and end up once again going to sit down with that coach at Illinois State. And he ended up putting me in another intern type role. And like I said, the first intern role is you're not making no money.
Mm-hmm.
Even at Iowa Central, I was making $26,000. And then you have room and board and stuff. So um, the sacrifice is
I think
definitely
Coach
that.
might have lost his connection.
Are you?
You there, Coach?
I'm
He
here. You
lost the
got me?
connection. Okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, we good. We back.
All right, bet.
But
So
you were
going,
saying even there you was only making 20 something.
yeah. So going there is only making 20 something, which you got two little ones. That's tough to be. You gotta feed them, take care of them, put a roof over their head. $26,000 a year was tough. But he got sick, and I said, man, I got to get back to Illinois. So I ended up going back to Illinois. Um, being there, uh, got there in April, started in April. Then opportunity came about where I was going to be the DFO. So I was starting in that role, and then another opportunity came about where I was able to shift into the defensive back role. So uh, that from uh, from April to 2013 to April 2014, I was basically like a DFO intern type deal. And then opportunity came in April of 2014 that I made full-time defensive back coach at Illinois State, safeties coach. So started that, man, and got to the point of there. I was there for doing that for 3-4 years, DBs for 4 years, and then moved to running backs in the fall of in the spring of 2018. So and
So
been.
so Coach, it seemed like you can use any other word, but it seemed like one of the biggest words is sacrifice on
Mm-hmm.
this journey. Would you say that, or would you use even another word?
Now I say sacrifice.
Wow.
Sacrifice is the biggest, and the second biggest probably is just hard work, and the third is probably just being determined. You know,
Yeah.
you know, there was a lot of times I could have quit. A lot of times, just because of financial reasons or just the strain it was putting on certain things. But I knew this was my calling. The ability to impact young men, the ability to go back to where I'm from, young men out.
Mhm.
Uh, give them a chance. I've seen friends and family how the inner city of Dallas can suffocate you if you don't have a strong mind. So um, that was like I said, it was my calling. This is my purpose. Coaching, being able to connect with with the youth in all facets of their life, and being able to help change them for the better in a positive way.
So walk me through. We can kind of lead this thing up. Walk me to the beginning of this SMU gig because I know a couple things. I know it had to feel good. I know it was big. How did it come about?
Man, it was crazy. 6 months prior, I had just took a job to Texas Southern.
Oh, okay.
Called
Dang.
Southern in Houston, working for the great Clarence McKinney down there, and we had a good season, man. We had a really good season. They hadn't won games in a long time, and I think we won four or five games there, and I think they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
do. But um, Scott Natty, you know, this came about because of Scott Natty, and in the relationships I've developed and grown over the last 12 years recruiting the area of Dallas, and being from here, I think my name carry a little weight. They say I'm Oak Cliff legend. I don't believe it.
Real
But
talk.
Scott Natty, he gave me a call. I think it was late November. The rumblings of the coach here that was going to leave and go to TCU started, and he kind of was in the background and kind of knew who the new guy was going to be. I've known Coach Natty for 10 years, and he was the head coach at Paris Episcopal. And the people, like, the first time we met, we just clicked. And he said, we're going to, in that moment, he said, we're going to work together one day. You know what I mean?
Mm.
He didn't know me. I didn't know him. We just talked for like 2-3 hours that first day. And when you're out recruiting, you usually 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and you got to go to the next school.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down and got to know him. We talked, and over the years, recruiting his kids and same thing like I said earlier, how I carry myself, how I am with people, very genuine with people, very authentic. And so he saw it, so I never even got any of his kids. None of his kids ever came play for me, not one,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so when he called me, it was like, hey, this can happen. I already told everybody that you should be the running backs coach at SMU. And I'm like, for real? And it was instant excitement, but we still didn't know it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When Coach Lashley, because it was all still rumors and stuff. So when Coach Lashley finally got the job, it was like, when you're like, dang, this is happening.
Yeah.
And he just telling me, be patient, be patient. I'm getting more eager, and then I'm not. And I talked to Lashley, I think, once, and then don't hear from him for like, I think it was like a week. And I'm like getting nervous, and I know
Yeah, real talk. You like, man, anything could be happening.
he can be happy. He can be talking to other running back coaches as we speak, and there's other guys that have probably worked with him that he has relationships with because he got a rich history in the game. So I'm like, man, I just want a chance. I just want opportunity. I just want to show everybody what I can do. And then the ability, the biggest thing is coming back home. The reason I went to U of H is to kick back close to the home. I mean, not U of H, but TSU, the Houston, is to get back close to home. So now 6 months later, I
Mm-hmm.
had the opportunity to get home. It was like a blessing that, me and my family prayed for.
Let me ask you this, Coach. We kind of pivoting back and forth with it because I do want to hit on SMU, but we skipped the start with that. You said TSU, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
What? And I'm just gonna be real with this. Y'all trying to change the thing around. What are some of the challenges the HBCUs face? And I preference that in regards to you got Dion, you got Hugh, you got it's kind of making a resurgence in a way. But you was on the ground level. Like what was some of the things that you kind of seen that you would may say, I wish this can improve, I wish that can improve, or was it not as bad as you thought?
Instantly going in, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Just hearing all the stories, they call that sometimes for African American coaches that's the graveyard for coaches. Like we go there and it ends our career, basically.
Mm.
That's the stories that's out there. But one thing that I know, and it's different. Dion has resources. I'm sure Hugh has resources. The thing is with Clarence McKinney, man, his hands is really tied behind his back down there, and he's doing a masterful job with what he has. The resources. He don't have the resources everybody has. We grind, and he for what he's done for that program. I can only speak volumes, and that he's done a great job. Like it starts with resources, a program, and all programs. So when
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a weight room, when you can't, when you really can't afford tutoring and stuff like that, you don't have the staff. You don't have a big staff.
Mm-hmm.
You have, it's I just want to say resources, and that's kind of what it was. What's the big clear cut difference? Money, resources, and the players are the players. Coaches, we're gonna coach. But
Mm-hmm.
like I I said, when you don't have certain things, the big meal plan and the like I said, the money for tutors and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
employees to be able to, the academic part is huge, and
Mm-hmm.
he's very strict, and we make sure we stay on them down there academically. And then it's just the money, like I said, not having a big enough weight room, working out in certain like a racket. We working out in racket court, we
Mm.
we got it in though. We
Yeah.
didn't make excuses,
Yeah.
So I think once those kids, whoever, buy in and get them resources and the things that they need, I think they can be just as successful as the other programs in the SWAC.
That's a
But
good point. That's a good point because I didn't even like everybody thinks strictly football, but I think I remember I was listening to some Dion said I think last night, and he mentioned tutors or something, and that's funny because I don't the first thing I think is football. I don't think, but he mentioned the lack of tutors and the lack of on the academic side. So that's funny to hear you say that because what he said validates what you said.
because you got all these
Oh,
expectations. Last time, so you got all these expectations of these kids, right? You want them to
hmm
be straight A B students. You want them to be great on the football field. You want these coaches to win, but they don't have resources to do that. So, these guys that do get fired for those reasons at those type of programs, like it's kind of like catch 22. It's like you damned if you do, you damned if you don't.
hmm
If you don't have it, and you doing all you can with what you have. I mean, I sometimes don't understand.
yeah, yeah, good stuff. 45 minutes in, good to wrap it up in just a second. So you get this SMU, you get the call, you get the job. How did that feel, coach? And then walk me through where do you want to take this thing, man? You're back home. You're at a pretty big institution. Walk me through how that felt and your goals and plans for this thing going forward.
And it was crazy. I think the first person I called was my girlfriend.
Okay.
Kinda just surreal. I think I broke down a few times, and I can't at the beginning I really didn't have time to break down because it was crazy. So it was Monday. I want to say December 7th, something like that.
Okay.
So I get the call. Oh, well, Monday I go out recruiting for Texas Southern. So I got a Texas Southern polo on. I'm out recruiting in the Houston land, and then Tuesday morning, I talked to Lashley Tuesday night. I mean Monday night, just for a little bit. And then he called me Tuesday morning, say, "Hey, we want to bring you up for an interview." I'm like, "When?" I got my Texas Southern stuff on, finna get ready to go to work. He said, "Can you be on a flight by I think it was like 2, 3 o'clock, and we'll meet tonight when I get to the hotel." I said, so I got on the phone with the secretary, set up everything, and I was on the flight to Dallas. So come to Dallas, get to the hotel, and I'm like, I'm kind of fired up and sitting around and trying to get my nerves down. So I think it was a little later that day, 9, 8, 9 when we met. So we met and talked, and it was the interview, and I thought it went well. So he offered me the job, man, and he said, "Can you start tomorrow?" So just say Monday morning, I was in Texas Southern Polo. Tuesday morning, I was in Texas Southern Polo. Wednesday morning, I was in the SMU Polo out on the road.
hmm
So it was surreal, man. Great feeling. I I can't. It's hard to explain, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, coach, man, you now this is fascinating, coach, because you was a Dallas guy, was at SOC, now at SMU, which I mean to me that's rare within itself. But like when you got back from a football standpoint, recruiting standpoint, did you have any goals, any visions? Like, man, I can kind of take this thing over, put my imprint on it. Talk a little bit about from that perspective, as far as what you expect to do.
Yeah, so for me, just coming in, is the expectation is to just put on for my city. Being here, being from here, knowing the gap and that they've kind of closed a little bit from the Highland Park to the southern where we're from. I want to make change and enforce change and go down there and show kids that, hey, you can do it. You come from where I come from. You have the same resources I have. You had the same deficiencies I had. So, don't allow yourself to make excuses. So that's my biggest goal, is just show these young men that they can do it. Show these young women that they can do it. No matter where you from. So doing that, and then just the biggest goal of all is, I wanna leave a lasting imprint on these young men. Just you know hey, hard work, dedication, and it can lead to success. You just gotta stay locked in. You gotta make some sacrifices, but you can do it. So, getting here and having the opportunity to work for Coach Lashley, who's a great man, who's done a great job building this program so far. He's done an unbelievable job in the last 8 months, 9 months since taking over the program. That I think we're gonna have something special here for a long time. So for me, being home, there's really, where else would I want to go?
Mhm.
I'm in the best cities in the country, the best city in the country, and then at one of the most prestigious universities in the country. So I'm here. Obviously, you want to continue to evolve and grow. I know I have aspirations. One day, for one, I want to be the best running back coach in the country. Two, of course, you want to be a head coach one day. And that's the goal. Um, there will be opportunities for me because of the way I carry myself. There will be opportunities. But for now, I want to be the best running back coach I can be for Red Lashley and the SMU Mustangs.
Coach, talk to me a little bit. What's that coaching life like? I mean, you're at a bigger institution as far as where you at, kind of like taking a step up. But what's that coaching? I won't say journey, schedule like. Like how, what's that the logistics behind that schedule of a coach? Like y'all in the office all the time, y'all on the road. How does that work? The meetings. Talk a little bit about that.
It's a complex schedule. We practice in the morning. So for us, we're here. 5:30 in the morning. Meetings, practice, and then once we do practice, we got to meet as coaches and stuff, getting prepared for the next day. So it can go from a coach standpoint. You can be here from 5:30 to probably 9:30 at night. So it's a very strenuous, tight schedule. For us. But he Coach Lashley does a good job. He gives us time to ourselves. To work out, to see family. Families are always welcome up to the building. And that's the job. And we get good vacation time and stuff like that. So he do a good job of trying to balance it out. But as this profession, it takes strain on you. And we know we signed up for. And
Yeah.
hey, we just putting in the work. And then when you're talking about being on the road recruiting, sometimes you're going for a week, sometimes you're going for 2 weeks, sometimes you be gone for 3 weeks before you check back in. But it's what you signed up for. It's what we love to do. It do take a strain on family sometimes, but when you have your priorities in order, it's okay. Tell these guys.
Coach.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish. I thought you wound down. My bad.
I tell these young men all the time, they don't. I don't think they understand that. We put more time in with you guys than our own kids sometimes. So
Mm.
you just don't understand that. We making sacrifices to be here just like you, and just want to let them know that hey, we actually care. We're not
Hmm.
just doing. So I think they sets in sometimes when you put it in perspective to them, because they don't think about it. Don't think about that. We're with kids. So don't say we don't care, we don't love you. We're bought in 100%.
Yeah. Coach, is there any? I wasn't gonna ask this till you start talking to me. Think you at SMU in the heart of Dallas, some of the best football players in the state, really. Is it any area you want to recruit, or y'all gonna focus on DFW, or y'all going all across the state, or y'all going other states? Like, what is the brain trust behind, or the thought process behind the recruiting aspect of it?
Well, we Dallas. I put it like this: we got Dallas is our primary area. DFW is our secondary area, and then Texas is like our third primary area, so we don't have to leave Texas. We really don't have to leave Dallas or the DFW Metroplex. So we want whole focus is on Dallas, man. We take care of our city.
Yeah. Let's end with these two, Coach. Talk to me a little bit about the ways you're growing, and then offer some wisdom to like either a young person. They don't got to be in coaching, a young person or a young person getting into coaching, and then we'll wrap it up about an hour in.
Man, I say I'm growing tremendously. Just from where I'm from, communicating and opening up, being vulnerable, stuff like that. I think I've made leaps and bounds on just that. That trust. Like I said earlier, I'm more of a growing up, slow to trust, don't trust people. I think over the last few years, especially coming into this situation, I want to be a little bit more open, I want to be a little more vulnerable. So I think that's helped my growth. Just being patient, and just continuing to learn and grow. We don't all have all the answers. You won't always have all the answers. So you got to have that open mind to continue to grow. You're in a profession where the game changes all the time. People changes all the time. So as long as you stay humble, remain yourself, and I always say just be you. That's what's gotten me here. I'm not gonna change. I'm not trying to be anyone else. I'm just gonna be Keenan Hall, South Oak Cliff graduate that have beat all the odds, and overcame all the struggles. And I think, for the youth, man, you just gotta continue, or anyone getting into this profession, man, just be yourself. Continue to work hard. There's gonna be sacrifices. You can't get into this thing without knowing that there's going to be sacrifices. So don't complain. If this is what you want to do, you gotta double down and do it. You gotta double down and put your all in it, because it can chew you up and spit you out immediately. You got to stay humble and continue to work hard and be dedicated.
That's a wrap, man. Good advice too. 55 minutes in the Hood Scout, Coach Keenan Hall, running back coach at the SMU. Coach, man, keep grinding, keep climbing, stay with you. I'm probably post little snippets on social media, and thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time too, bro.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, take care.